Thank you all for joining us here today. Today's webinar is brought to you by InfoTrust and Tag Inspector, and we're going through a buyer's guide for tag governance platforms. Quickly, a little bit of housekeeping. A couple of upcoming webinars or an upcoming event that some of you may be interested in is we are hosting a Thought Leaders virtual breakfast for thought leaders around analytics within the news and media area. It's coming up on December 3rd. That registration link is there on the screen, and it will be available and obviously embedded in the presentation that we'll send out after this. So join us if interested.
And you may be getting potentially some breakfast sent to your house. So there's a little extra excitement there to register now.
There you go. So to start, a little bit of housekeeping. So your presenters, that is me on the left side of your screen. My name is Lucas. I am our product manager for Tag Inspector. And then also presenting with me is Brad. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, hello everybody. Thanks for joining today. I lead our partnerships team at Tag Inspector. So I spend my days talking with potential buyers and helping them understand, is Tag Inspector a good fit? Does it meet their business needs? And I'm super excited about today's session because it's a 30-minute session. We know everybody's virtually burnt out at this point, but it just kind of helps you understand if you're that person at your organization trying to decide what is that governance platform, your task of like understanding how this can add value across your organization. That's a focus for today. It's for you. It's a buying guide for that specific reason. So excited for today's session and thanks for joining.
Yes, and as Brad mentioned, it is just 30 minutes today, so quick and painless and hopefully extremely valuable for you as well. So with that, we will kick it off. As mentioned, our purpose here, so the goal of Tag Inspector and the goal of data governance, tag governance in general, as we look at it, is to ensure complete and compliant data collection in the most efficient way possible to drive business decisions and meet customer expectations. So this is something that's extremely important when thinking about a tag governance solution, is that you're going to want to be thinking about all aspects of tag governance. Oftentimes, different partners that we work with or organizations that we've worked with in the past, previously, they've been using different platforms that might be out in the market that can help them address just specific areas of this. So maybe they were using a tag auditing tool to help ensure complete data. It was great for them for just auditing and being able to test data collection, but it was really a stretch for them to be able to also address needs around privacy compliance, address needs around quantifying the performance impact of tags for that efficient data collection piece. So keep this in mind when we're thinking about the goals of data governance. It's holistic, everything around that entire data collection architecture.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think, again, you're going to know within the next 30 minutes by the time we finish this session today of what parts are most important to your organization. So this is a holistic strategy, but as we talk with partners every day, it's, there's typically one that has a priority that's most important to leadership, the organization. So we're going to walk through kind of 4 key sections within governance and that holistic strategy, especially from a Tag Inspector point of view. So with that, Lucas, why don't I kick us off here? So to share a little bit more of kind of the format today and how we're going to walk through this is we're going to open up with the 4 primary solutions or needs from a partner standpoint. If you're in that buying mentality of like, is Tag Inspector or is a governance platform needed? Is it right for our organization? So how we're going to do this is I'm going to kick it off with basically 4 key areas: global tag visibility, complete data collection, compliant data collection, and efficient data collection. I'm going to walk through some of those questions that you should be asking, but then also what are those platform requirements that go hand in hand with that specific use case in those questions. I'm then going to pass it over to Lucas for each section. He's going to talk specifically within Tag Inspector and give you some example and screenshots from our platform of how we are showing that data and how Tag Inspector can be that solution for your organization. So let's start with global tag visibility. This may seem very simplistic, but this is always the first step with partners that we work across the globe of all sizes. Is as much as organizations would like to say they know every single tag or platform that's loading on their site, before you can put a data collection process in place, a governance process in place, privacy, etc., you really need to ask yourself, what are the tags loading on my site or sites, right? Many organizations we work with have thousands of sites. So for that centralized team to really understand what platforms are firing in every region with multiple stakeholders, multiple brands, can be very challenging. So first and foremost, before you do anything else, you need to understand what tags are loading on your site, how are those tags being loaded, what pages are tags on, and what cookies are set. That's typically our always first step with an engagement with an organization. And let's bring this all together of what is there and give that clear explanation. Because what happens a lot of times is you may have a person that was at your organization that left, and they may have been doing some pilots with partners, whether it's a marketing program or a collection, data collection, or a third party, CDP, whatever that is. You may no longer be using that platform, but it could be still sitting on your site. So it's very important to just understand what is our global tag visibility, what's happening across all of our sites. And then from a platform standpoint, as you talk with Tag Inspector and other players out there, some of the requirements you want to look for is number one, like, does the partner have a robust library of classified platforms? We're very excited to share that our platform is around 2,500 tags that are classified and loaded. We do have the largest library. And it's really important because not only do we add daily to that 2,500 number, but you have to make sure that it's classified so it's actually detecting and picking up off of your particular site. So having that robust library is very important. Two is having the tag and cookie reporting. It's one thing to just get an overview of, hey, here's the tags on my site. There's free Chrome extensions that can tell you at a very surface level what's happening on your homepage. But you want to get granular with this because you have to understand what tags, what cookies are actually showing up, and then being able to collect that data across no matter what platform or whatever flow that the user is taking. So being able to collect that data across all digital properties is another item that you need to be asking during the evaluation. And then clear and simple reporting that is easily consumable for all stakeholders. This is by far one of the most important items, is because this isn't a one siloed part of the organization that needs to think about tag governance. It involves your privacy team, it involves your IT team, it involves your marketing team. It really has to be a collective effort in order to provide that sustainable governance strategy for your organization. So Lucas, I'll kick it over to you to actually talk about some specifics within Tag Inspector of how we've kind of meet some of these requirements and demands.
Yeah, perfect. So a couple of just things to point out here, and that was a great overview, Brad, just in terms of the requirements. Number one, that robust library that you really need. It's one thing to be able to identify or to display to the user just the general script that is implemented or the network request. And it gets really technical with a lot of different platforms out there, and maybe some platforms that you're even using internally for like performance monitoring and things like that, that have some tag reporting. But without that library and without that clear and simple reporting, like you can see here on the screen, it's just giving a lot of technical, it's like a technical data dump, basically. And that's one of the things that we really pride ourselves on at Tag Inspector, is being able to classify all of that behavior and then be able to present it in a meaningful and easily consumable way. So what you can see there on your screen on the left side is what we call our tag hierarchy. That's really displaying to you all of the tags that are loading and then how they're being introduced. So having visibility into tags that are loading directly from the source of the page, or being piggybacked or even loaded through other third-party tags, gives you that holistic visibility, gives you that global visibility into all the platforms, while then also having that ability to drill down into individual platforms, understand what pages they're on, what pages they're missing from, data that's being collected, and then those technical specifics for what those requests look like, granular, what files are responsible for loading each of those platforms. All of that available there within the Tag Inspector reporting.
Yeah, thanks, Lucas. I like to say this is usually the surprise chart when we pull this for partners who have never ran a tag inspector scan of their site, because I think there's a lot of surprises there that they weren't aware of, like, wow, I have 100+ platforms that are loading on my site, whether that's through piggybacking, et cetera. So it's one of those, these are the types of evaluations, even if you're considering it and you want to run a scan of your particular site, please feel free to reach out to us directly and we can actually run that for you and walk you through the report itself. So thanks, Lucas, for that. I mean, so once we've kind of really determined, again, from a buying point of view, is like, let's figure out what platforms are on my site. The second really specific use case is around complete data collection. So are the required tags always executing, right? Simple things of, are my Google Analytics tags firing on every page of my site? Very basic, but it's simplistic to make sure that analytics should be driving your organization. It should be driving your decisions with marketing, which audiences you're reaching out. So it's important that your analytics stack, whether it's Google, Adobe, or some other organization or stack, is working as it should be. But is the required data always being collected? Are your organization's data architecture requirements being met for all users, all conditions? And most importantly, if data collection fails, if something's not firing as it should, whether that be a remarketing tag, whether that be a parameter being passed at checkout, you really need to know, and you want to be able to know quickly and find out why. We come across many organizations that tell us firsthand, we spend hours troubleshooting, investigating. A lot of times on the weekends when something fails, they get a note from leadership to say something broke. What we really pride ourselves on with Tag Inspector is it allows you to quickly troubleshoot, quickly investigate, and not to mention be alerted when something breaks. So as you think about complete data collection, some of the requirements you want to look for within a governance platform like Tag Inspector is granular reporting to surface data collected by each tag. So it's one thing to just show, hey, here's all the tags that fire, but you want to understand at a parameter and value level, which is really important. 2 is the ability to view tags loading on user actions. So as consumers are making specific actions on your particular site, what tags are firing. Validation rules and alerts. Again, with our real-time functionality, what we pride ourselves on is having that always-on monitoring, because most organizations we work with, they don't have resources falling from the sky where they can start checking all of their marketing tags or their platforms loading at all times. So being able to have an alerting mechanism that it gives you that scale to be alerted if something goes wrong. So you, the business owner, can find out versus some particular brand or someone in your organization realizing that something broke, and then you have to go figure out, and like you weren't the first one to bring it to the company. So that's where the real-time monitoring becomes very important for these organizations that we partner with. Simple configuration, and then partner support's a big one. So Tag Inspector, we pride ourselves of being a proprietary platform of a large analytics organization. So InfoTrust is our parent company. We actually developed Tag Inspector as our own proprietary platform. So we work with organizations across end-to-end analytics. So having a partner that truly understands not just, hey, what tags are on my site or how to set up this rule or validation, but like, how does that fit in with the overall analytics ecosystem? What are the best practices to make your analytics work more efficient, work harder for you? It's a really important piece to just not have a governance tool, but to have a governance organization that can bring those best practices, give you the thought leadership, help you understand what are those baseline rules, validations, things that you should be looking for in your specific vertical. So with that, Lucas, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, so for meeting those different requirements that Brad just outlined, with Tag Inspector, what we use is, and Brad had alluded to it, our Tag Inspector real-time technology. Now, this is a little bit unique in the tag auditing and tag governance platform area in how we're collecting the information. So as opposed to running a scan for the collection of this granular data validation data, what we're doing is the tag-based solution. So as live users are going through and interacting with the pages of your website, clicking on buttons, loading those pages, purchasing things, adding things to the cart, obviously tags are executing on all of those different user actions. What our tag does is when implemented on the website, typically the majority of our partners are implementing that through their tag management system. Once that is implemented, we are loading just in parallel to those other platforms, and we are recording all of the other tag behavior that's happening on that particular page. So what this allows us to do is provide really granular reporting, like what you can see on the screen there, all the way down to individual value and parameter level, so you can understand what are the data points that are being collected by each of those different platforms. But most importantly, the scale at which we're able to collect that information is really unparalleled. That is collecting for all different types of users, all different characteristics of users, all different users that are actually interacting with your website. So we're able to get that information in real time across all pages, across all interactions, and across all user conditions, just directly out of the box. Now, if you go to the next slide there, what we're able to then do is provide some features and functionality so that you can take action and automate the testing and the monitoring portion of that ensuring of complete data collection. So there's functionality around validation rules. So what you can do is define expected tag behavior. So when a user reaches a confirmation page, or when a particular event is pushed to your data layer, you can state then and configure those rules to then look for a particular tag executing and a particular data point being collected. So you can translate your entire data collection architecture and all of your data collection requirements into these validation rules, and our system will then automatically be testing and validating that action, that data collection is always happening for all of those different user types, user conditions, at all times, with the ability then to alert you and your team as soon as things break. So it's really comprehensive, really always on monitoring, testing, and then alerting for your organization to ensure always having that complete and accurate data.
I can't emphasize enough, Lucas. I know we hear this quite a bit, is many times the person within the organization that's looking to bring on a governance platform, they are tired, especially with enterprises, right? They're tired of getting emails from all types of regions or markets or stakeholders saying, why is this not collecting? Why does my analytics look off? Why is my reporting? So it really gives it allows a user of Tag Inspector to kind of become in the driver's seat, where they're actually letting the markets know, or letting the different brands know, or letting even just the small team know, like, hey, this failed, we're on it, we're fixing it, and allows that kind of user to be proactive versus hearing from all types of people complaining, like, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Like, they want to be on top of things because it's their job to manage the analytics ecosystem or the tags, et cetera. So it comes up quite a bit, and it's usually a lifesaver for the folks that bring in Tag Inspector, because it gives them that monitoring that, you know, nobody actually has the time to go check and validate these things, especially if something fails over the weekend and you're an e-commerce business. You know, we're getting close to the holiday, Black Friday, all that madness. So having a monitoring solution in place has been very beneficial for our partners. All right, compliant data collection. This is probably the hottest item right now, and where we continue to spend a lot of time in with the ever increasing laws and regulations. I know CCPA just came out with a new, it was during the election, so I think it kind of got missed a bit, but more rules and regulations that are ever changing, whether it's GDPR, CCPA, and other individual statewide laws and regulations. But compliant data collection is another big one. Is, again, what tags are loading on my site? More importantly, are any unauthorized tags loading? So many organizations have, or what we really encourage is to have a privacy compliance approved kind of governance guide, right? Where you have, here are the approved platforms for my organization. Once you have that, you then start, everything's blessed by business, by legal, by IT, all the other departments. You want to be able to understand, is there a third party? Is there another tag loading on my site that I'm not aware of? Because you need to vet it and make sure you update all of your cookie consent, all of the things that you have to do internally, or you need to make sure that you get that tag off of your particular site. So again, that goes hand in hand with what data is being collected. It's just a compliance risk. what cookies are being set, how did tags behave for different consent conditions of users. So we do quite a bit of work in that space with our partners in Tag Inspector, and Lucas will kind of share a little bit in that. So when you think about compliant data collection, some of the requirements is, again, we've mentioned this, but comprehensive view of how all tags are loading. The important piece here is regardless of how, you want to understand where those tags are coming in from. Are they piggybacking other tags? Are they loading on page source? Which is kind of leads to us the second, the piggyback behavior. And that's a common problem in any vertical, is tags that bring, platforms that bring all their friends to the party with them. The ability to define and monitor a allowed tag policy. So we do quite a bit of what's called a governance audit, where we come in and we help an organization understand what are those approved platforms that are loading on the site. But what you don't want to do is do all of that work, and then 6 months later, you run into that same problem, and you're paying someone like a Tag Inspector to do another audit. Our goal is to do that one time, and then you have an ongoing monitoring, so you can monitor that and you can be alerted if something is added or something that's changed across your sites. So being able to scan across different consent conditions, having that monitoring, and then more of an evaluation, like this is where the thought leadership comes in, and expertise of someone like Tag Inspector that can kind of provide you that thought leadership, make an overwhelming topic less overwhelming, because we can come in and say, look, here is the right approach to this, and here's how other organizations have done this similar in your space or vertical.
Yeah, no, excellent points there in terms of those requirements. At Tag Inspector, from a platform perspective, how we go about collecting that information for this compliant data collection use case, it gets back to the scanning. So we talked a little bit at the very outset about gaining that global visibility into tags. So high level business type of analysis, what platforms are loading, where, and how. For compliant data collection, what we do is we take those similar data sets that we are generating by running scans across all pages of an organization's website. We collect those tags that execute, as we talked about earlier, industry leading tag library in terms of the number of classified platforms. But we then aggregate that information together across all scans ran across your entire organization. So partners that we work with have hundreds, sometimes thousands of different websites. And when trying to understand their kind of position with respect to compliant data collection, they need to have a really global, high-level look and a high-level view of what are the unique platforms that are loading, what are the different subsections of brands, of regions that those different platforms are loading on, and then how are those violating any of our defined privacy policies? So what is being disclosed to the user, what we're defining as being allowed based upon those different laws. So we aggregate that together in what you're seeing there on the screen, which is the privacy and compliance module within Tag Inspector. Now, that gives you a global view, what we call our inventory of just the unique platforms that are loading, and kind of a high level look at where those are. If we go to the next page, what that allows you to then do is also view that information. Those are those filter options. So you can drill down into individual websites. You can drill down into what is the behavior across individual brands or individual countries that you might be operating within. And then also you can view results based upon consent conditions. So one of the things that we are able to do is scan all the pages of your websites, simulating different consent conditions of users. So we can show you what are the tags that are executing for a user that has accepted all tracking. What are the tags that are executing when a user has declined or opted out of all tracking, which is really critical both from an auditing standpoint as well as from a testing standpoint to make sure that your consent management architecture is in place and is compliant with different industry and country laws. Beyond that, you're able to then drill down a little bit deeper into what are the individual websites. If we look at the next one, you can see the number of sites on which each of those different tags or platforms are loading on. What exactly are those individual websites? You can input in some metadata around those so you understand who is it that you need to contact if there is a violation. for those violations, if we look at the next page there, there is some functionality within the tool to allow you to very easily define that allowed tag policy that Brad had mentioned. So you can start off with the individual audits or the inventory of the unique platforms, and then go through and define what is allowed. Any selections there are going to be applied to future scans. And then going even one step further from the just the reporting on allowed tags, not allowed tags, there's also some automation within the platform for identifying PII, which we'll see on the next screen. So you can identify any instances of clear text PII that's being passed by any platform. And then there's also a functionality within there where we will actually assign a governance risk level. So some of that expertise that Brad was mentioning for just guidance outside of the platform is also built into the technology. So there's algorithms that are running, looking at characteristics of data points that are being passed and helping you to identify any high risk data point, maybe something that is a unique data point that is being collected across multiple platforms, being placed in a cookie, and then also being shared across other platforms. A number of different characteristics go into that evaluation, but that's going to allow you to really prioritize where are the areas that you're drilling down deeper into as you're trying to understand what's non-compliant and what's a compliance risk with respect to your data.
Thanks, Lucas. And I will say hats off to you and the product team. I know that from a tag inspector standpoint and product and the innovation and development, I mean, we were talking about governance and trying to get organizations to keep that top of mind way before CCPA and some of the laws and regulations. So what your team's done of just far as bringing automation, bringing the module to organizations based on direct customer feedback. And one thing that I'll say, if you're watching this today or watching it later recording, you know, we work with many enterprises, but we work with many organizations that have one website. And, you know, compliance it doesn't matter whether it's this, it doesn't matter how big you are. There's still a lot of work that goes into maintaining your site. And I know some of this can be overwhelming, but that's where we come in from an expertise, thought leadership. This is stuff that we do for thousands of sites across the globe. So being able for us to come in and give you that playbook that's worked for many organizations of your size is really where we want you to lean in. And we even go so much for partnerships where they're like, look, we don't want to hire another person. Like, we want an extension of your team to meet with us weekly, provide this governance expertise. So again, there's multiple different options as we think about partnerships, but I want you to know that some of the reports may seem overwhelming, may be confusing, but that's, you know, it's very simplistic when you have someone, an expertise from our side, giving you that thought leadership, helping you create those reports for leadership, and providing the education around this space, whether it's complete data collection, compliant data collection, et cetera. Which leads us to our final element we're going to talk about today as we think about kind of that buying guide, and one of those specific use cases is efficient data collection. And this is one where, you know, we have it as a separate section, but I think everything that we've discussed to this point, it all helps with efficient data collection. So as you're building compliance policies, as you're helping automate and monitor complete data collection, as you're doing that site cleanup through a governance audit, you are helping efficient data collection. So I would say efficient data collection is spread across the entire governance platform. No matter what you do, you're going to help your organization be more efficient in how you're collecting data. So specifically, some questions that you should be asking is, what tags are impacting user experience? How much are tags impacting page load times? And what is the performance cost of my data collection architecture? This really held true as, a lot of organizations like, well, do tags really impact performance? And, one individual tag most likely does not impact the performance of your site. But we just hosted a CPG summit with Google a couple months ago or 6 weeks ago. And one of the VPs of analytics for a large enterprise beauty organization actually spoke specifically to Tag Inspector and our partnership there. They said their particular sites were 20% faster or 20% more efficient because of the work that we've done with Tag Inspector through the site cleanup, et cetera. So it really does have impact as you think about the aggregate amount of tags. And the questions you should be asking from a specific platform standpoint is you want to make sure that all relevant performance metrics are being surfaced. So the platform allows you to see those performance metrics at a tag level, the ability to quantify the performance cost of each tag, and then clear reporting and insights. So we've even went so far where we actually have for large publishing companies that really rely on that site speed is putting together dashboards of what are the platforms on the site that are showing high risk, low risk, medium risk, as far as like impacting the particular site speed. So again, these are the questions that you should be asking if performance is important to your organization. And Lucas will get into a little bit an example of what I just mentioned.
Yeah, so performance is an interesting one as it relates to tags. So as Brad mentioned, oftentimes there is a little bit of friction inside of organizations around performance, and are tags contributing to negative site performance? Is it worth it for us to spend the resources to kind of modify the tagging architecture in order to be able to reach different performance gains? And ultimately, it's really difficult. There's a number of different factors and ways in which tags can impact, potentially, in theory, the performance of your website. And one of the things that we're really proud of with the Tag Inspector tool is that we have methods which allow you to actually quantify the performance impact of each of those various different tags and platforms. We don't have to look at some of the different metrics that are associated with tags and their relation and correlations with page performance metrics. We have that. We have some studies on that, and there's a lot of content that we put together on the Tag Inspector website, which kind of digs into some of those metrics and the metrics that matter. But for the performance analysis, which is what you're taking a look at, just an example of an output on the screen, it quantifies that impact. So it allows you to have data-backed discussions around performance cost versus the business value of the different marketing, analytics, media tagging that you have on your website. So how that works is we are generating a really large data set. When we're running scans across each of the different websites or pages of your website, we actually have functionality where we can block different platforms from executing. And so we'll go through and we'll block each of the various different tags from executing. We'll run a number of scans across each of those different conditions, generating a really large data set. And then we run some different statistical models on that to be able to quantify and understand the impact of each individual tag on some key page performance timing metrics. All of that goes into then that performance analysis, like what you can see there, and really drives those different discussions. So in addition to what Brad was mentioning, how just cleaning up legacy tagging, getting rid of things that are no longer in use, really cleaning up your overall architecture for complete data collection, making sure that everything is in place and running as it should, cleaning up unauthorized platforms for compliant data collection. Those things are going to help you make great strides towards an efficient data collection architecture. This can really put you over the top, help you understand how much are tags ultimately actually impacting my page performance, and then is it worth it to potentially trim down that architecture even further, or look at some of the different strategies that you can employ in order to minimize that performance risk.
Thanks, Lucas. I know we promised the audience due to virtual burnout that they would get 30 minutes. We're a little bit over, but I just have to say, thank you, Lucas, for kind of hosting this with me. Thank you, everybody who's been able to attend or watch it later. That was a jam-packed session covering the 4 key areas of Tag Inspector, and particularly just as you think about a governance platform for your organization, what are those 4 areas that are important? What are the questions that you need to be asked? Whether it's compliant data collection, complete data collection, data visibility, like what is on our site, or the efficiency. So thank you everybody for your time today. We love the opportunity to talk with you if you are potential considering a governance platform. We do quite a bit of customized technical demos where we really understand what are your specific needs at your organization. We'll hop on the call, we'll run some enterprise scans for your particular site or sites, and actually show you specifically, here's the value of this, here's your ROI, here's how Tag Inspector can help you get to that next level much faster and feel much better about your overall tag governance strategy. So thank you so much for joining today. Lucas, any final words from the wizard himself, the data governance guru?
No, thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining here today. As Brad mentioned, yeah, let us know if there's anything that we can help out with, any questions that can be answered. We will be sending out the recording, so you'll have access to that. Also, check out the Tag Inspector website. There's a lot of really good content that we put together around auditing for various different purposes. So specifically for each of these different areas of tag governance, auditing specifically for things like CCPA, GDPR, some really good content around those metrics that matter for performance. So check that out. Hopefully that can help. And hopefully we will see you again on some of our future webinars.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.